How Tyler Perry Became a Billionaire. Have you ever wondered what it would take to become a billionaire? Well, if you ask Tyler Perry, I believe he would have just 2 words for you: own everything. Sounds crazy, right? But that's what the man did. And today, he is one of the 7 black billionaires in the United States. There are many writers, producers, and directors in Hollywood, and some individuals like Perry embody all of these titles, but not all of them are billionaires. How did Perry achieve billionaire status? Well, for starters, he absolutely refused to sell ownership of his art, based on a sound piece of advice given to him by another black billionaire who knows what it means to write your own paycheck. Sit back and relax, and let's dive into the juicy details of how Tyler Perry came to be America's 7th black billionaire. But before we do, take a moment to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already, and also make sure to click on the notification bell to be alerted when we post new videos. As sweet as a story about billions can get, I think it would be even sweeter if we told this story from the start, the part where Perry really began, as some sort of society underdog. Tyler Perry was born on the 13th of September, 1969, in New Orleans, Louisiana, to father Emmett Perry Sr. and mother Willie Maxine Perry. He was originally named Emmett Perry Jr. by his parents, but he later legally changed his first name to Tyler at the age of 16 due to the bad relationship he had with his father. His father was a carpenter, and his mother had no recorded occupation. He had 3 siblings growing up, and his family was not financially stable. In fact, some notable sources have termed his story from poor as hell to billionaire. Tyler didn't have an average childhood in many ways. This weaved the starting threads of his career. He once said that his father's response to everything was to beat it out of you. Eventually, it got so bad that Tyler started contemplating suicide to get away from his father's painful beatings. Aside from that form of child abuse, another reoccurring issue that showed up in Tyler's childhood was sexual molestation. Before he was 10, he was molested by 3 men. And when he turned 10 years old, he was also molested by a friend's mother. He also later discovered that another of his friends was molested by Emmett, Tyler's own father. Tyler carried the pain and trauma of these incidents for a while. As a young adult in his early 20s, he took up writing as a form of therapeutic release for his hurts after he watched an episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show.
Well, that is just very interesting.
Where someone had described in detail the therapy of writing and how it helped the author work out their own issues. Soon, Perry began writing letters to himself to help heal his past hurts. As a way of protecting his privacy, he used different names for each of the characters in his letters, in case his journal was ever found by anyone. The journal soon evolved into a creative work, and his letters became the basis of his very first musical, I Know I've Been Changed. The script that was written to be performed in theater used song and dance to communicate about life issues like child abuse, its effects, and dysfunctional families. While writing scripts and therapeutic messages to himself, Tyler was working several different jobs. Although he didn't graduate high school, he gained a GED and worked first as a carpenter's apprentice. About 20 or 30 jobs, including one as a used car salesman, would follow before Tyler found his calling in educational entertainment. Throughout these many jobs Tyler was employed in,
that same voice that said, "Quit," I heard nothing, which was a very difficult time for me. Very difficult.
He saved money to be able to produce his script, I Know I've Changed, in theaters. In 1990, Tyler Perry moved from New Orleans to Atlanta. 2 years later, at the age of 22, he produced I Know I've Changed at a local theater in Atlanta, using his life savings of up to $12,000 to fund the production. His cast consisted of black actors and actresses. He worked as the writer, director, producer, promoter, and star of the play. This attitude would transcend all of Tyler's future projects and make him renowned for it.
Look at that. Ooh, yes, indeed.
The musical portrayed Christian themes of forgiveness and redemption, virtues Perry had picked up during his childhood days of attending church services with his mother. The play follows the story of a young man who confronts his abuser, forgives him, and moves on. Despite all of Perry's hard work and money, the play was a failure. Only about 30 people showed up on the weekend run of the play, and overall it received a very terrible reception compared to what Perry had envisioned. A little while later, he had lost almost all his life savings to the production of the play, yet he refused to give up. He traveled to other communities and nearby states to present the play again and again. Each time he left to rehearse or present the play, he lost a job, yet he didn't relent. In the 6 years his play kept getting rejected, Perry wrote and rewrote the play until it was its best. By 1997, he hit rock bottom after losing so many jobs and completely exhausting his life savings on several productions of his play. He was penniless and homeless. He lived in his car with a friend, and sometimes when he had a little more, he checked into pay-by-weekly hotels. Perry described this period in his life as a nightmare.
It was made by an African-American woman who was a former slave, and each patch in the quilt she had put in represented a part of her life.
As he also could barely afford the basic needs of life. At the age of 28, in the year 1998, Perry once again tried to produce his play. He rented out Atlanta's House of Blues to restage the much-improved version of his play. Perry recalls that the heating system in the theater went out that day, and he promised himself that it would be his last attempt at staging the play if it failed once again. Of course, all these thoughts went flying out the minute he glanced out the window and saw the long line of people that had come to watch his play.
I saw that on the show today. What's that person's phone number? I want to reach out to them. And you recently changed the lives.
The House of Blues sold out 8 times in a row, and Perry had to move the play to the larger Fox Theater still in Atlanta. Up to 9,000 people watched Perry's play. Producers who had turned Perry down began to approach him, but instead, he chose to work with Dallas evangelical pastor T.D. Jakes on an adaptation of his book, Women Thou Art Loosed. His popularity traveled throughout Atlanta. The Washington Post gave him an amazing review, which also boosted his publicity. He then began to produce stage plays of his numerous other scripts and gained himself a large African-American following due to the fact that he portrayed relatable stories in his plays. By 2005, Forbes reported that Perry had sold more than $100 million in tickets, $30 million in videos, and $20 million in merchandise. They also reported that the 300 live shows he produced each year were attended by an average of 35,000 people a week. The same year, several studios approached Perry about filming Diary of a Mad Black Woman, another one of his interesting scripts, after the success of Women Thou Art Loosed on screens. Only Lionsgate Studios, however, offered Perry the complete creative control he insisted on. Perry raised $5.5 million, which he used to film Diary of a Mad Black Woman on a budget because the studio was convinced that his methods would not deliver enough profit.
So we get the test results of the 160. They stay in their rooms until their results come back.
With his methods, they only hoped to make about $20 million. However, Tyler persisted, and when Diary of a Mad Black Woman hit the screens, it grossed up to $50.6 million domestically. Shortly after, he moved on to his next project, which was an adaptation of Medea's Family Reunion. This project also did amazingly well, opening at #1 in the box office at $30.3 million. In no time, it went on to gross a total of $65 million. It was at this point that Tyler Perry gained an invite to the Oprah Winfrey Show. On camera with Oprah, Tyler discussed his movies, visions, and achievements, as is usually done on talk shows. But backstage, Oprah gave Tyler sound advice. From one black entertainer to another, she instilled in him the importance of continuing to own all rights to his creative productions. Although Tyler had set off with this attitude, Oprah helped him see the benefits of writing his own paychecks. At the time of that life-changing conversation,
One thing, focus on it really, really strong. I know these people who jump from idea to idea to idea to idea to idea.
Oprah herself owned her entire show and the studio that produced it. This is believed to be the beginning of Perry's extravagant earnings. Rather than just earning solely as an actor, writer, director, or producer, the gross of Tyler's profits went to his personal pockets, and the studios he worked with received their due cuts. His films are co-produced and distributed by Lionsgate Studios. He retains full copyright ownership under the corporate name Tyler Perry Films and places his name in front of all titles. Apart from his work in film, Tyler Perry is also a successful author. In 2006, he wrote and published his first book called Don't Make a Black Woman Take Off Her Earrings, Medea's uninhibited commentaries on love and life. The book sold over 300,000 copies, and the hardcover reached #1 on the New York Times bestseller list and remained there for 12 consecutive weeks. The book was also voted Book of the Year and Best Humor Book at the 2006 Quill Awards.
Had I given up these people that you see on this screen right now would not be a part of my dream.
His second book, which was published in 2016, was also a success, though not quite as much as the first. It debuted at #5 on the New York Times bestseller list. Tyler Perry went on to write, direct, produce, and star in many multi-million-dollar films, which he made sure to own copyrights to. including Medea's Big Happy Family, Medea's Witness Protection, Why Did I Get Married, and Daddy's Girls, among others. He also did the same with his blockbuster series, House of Pain, which featured 3 generations of a black family living in one household. Also, in partnership with OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, Tyler brought the series Love Thy Neighbor and The Haves and Have-Nots to the big screen. Both series ranked up amazing ratings, but that of Haves and Have-Nots did not break the records for OWN. Another one of Tyler Perry's wild achievements is owning his own studio and location. He bought 330 acres of land, which was formerly a military base in Fort McPherson, Atlanta, and converted it into a studio. His studio has since been the location for blockbusters.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's because everybody who got it, even everybody who came to the party, it was very important to me that they felt special.
Including the 2018 Marvel film, Black Panther, and the television series The Walking Dead. 50,000 square feet of this site is dedicated to standing permanent sets, which includes the replica of the White House, a cheap motel, a luxury hotel lobby, a real 1950s-style diner, and a trailer park set. With all these achievements and several business endeavors, it was hardly a surprise when Forbes announced that Tyler Perry had now officially joined the 9 Zeros gang. From 2005 to date, Perry has reportedly generated a pre-tax income of up to $1.4 billion, making him the 7th Black American billionaire. So in conclusion, we believe it is a rather straightforward march to becoming a billionaire. First, you must write a stage play out of your life experiences, have it fail for exactly 6 years in a row. Finally, make a breakthrough in your 7th year, collaborate with a pastor, make sure to own all rights to your first film, which must be shot on a budget. Go on to write, direct, produce, star in, and own numerous other creative works. Of course, make sure to insert the writing and publishing of 2 books, produce numerous entertaining sitcoms, which you must not forget to own all the rights to, very important. And finally, own a 50,000 square foot studio with random permanent sets, bound to be needed in all kinds of movie genres.
When I am writing a script or a movie or writing the Have and Have-Nots,
Well, at least that's what Tyler Perry did. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how Tyler Perry became the 7th Black billionaire. If you like this video, make sure to share it with your family and friends. Also, make sure to check out all of our other entertaining and informative videos on this channel. Until next time.